Have you ever been in a situation where you had to do something that you really just didn't want to do?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Like the other night when you had to take out the garbage before the dog was going to get in it. Like it was smelly. You were already like dressed for bed. You didn't want to go out to the trash can.
Oh, yeah. I was like, can I not just do this in the morning? But I knew if I didn't do it that night, the dog was 100% going to get into it, and I'd be in for a world of hurt in the morning.
Right. Or maybe like you've helped out a family member who's been like sick or something like that. Like you were happy to help, but you definitely were not excited about doing the work. If you're trying to improve your life in any significant way, it's going to require you to do a ton of things that you just don't want to do. Today, we're going to talk about how to quit skipping steps, how to take responsibility for your goals and push through even when you don't want to.
Like, really don't want to.
All right, roll the intro. Welcome to the Let's Quit podcast.
Quitting is not always a bad thing.
If you have the right mindset, quitting can be the most powerful tool you have on your journey to success. It's certainly been helpful for us.
Whether it's flying through hurricanes, building our businesses, or just trying to get to bed on time, we're always trying to level up and improve our lives.
This is the show where we share the lessons, experiences, and friends that have helped us live this incredible life. So let's quit the bad and grow the good together.
All right, so before we get started, we want to thank our new listeners, especially you guys who listened to the first podcast and then came back again.
What, people came back?
Yeah, like they came back specifically for us, and we feel honored. Anyways, yeah, thank you so much, and especially to the people out there on Patreon who are supporting us. Like, seriously, you are the ones that make this possible. So extra thank you to you. Thanks for being who you are. We're super excited to have you. If you wouldn't mind putting a review out for our podcast, we'd love to hear from you.
If you got beef, you can email us at, what's our email?
Let's quit podcast at
gmail.com. There it is. So if you got beef with us, let's hash it out there, okay? Let's keep our ratings nice and high.
Anyways, we're getting distracted. We're going to jump right into some story time. It's been a busy week for us, but like an oddly busy week. Like, I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's been pretty boring. Like, if I were somebody watching from the background of our week this week, I'd be like, wow, you guys, this is boring. I thought you built stuff and had fun.
I'm really shocked we were able to pull out a video this week. Like,
Yeah.
I just didn't think we were going to be able to get it done.
Well, that's the thing is like, it's not, okay, I shouldn't say that it's boring because it was very productive. It was just behind the scenes work that had to get done. It was very real and honest. Like, this is what it takes to start a business and keep it running. It's just not, it's not the things that everybody thinks about or anybody sees.
Well, just like in the intro, like this is the stuff that we didn't want to do. This is the stuff we don't like doing. But if we want to run a business and we want to be halfway successful at it, this is the kind of stuff that we got to do.
So we're talking around in circles around what it was. So you started doing a lot of website work. That was one of the main behind the scenes things we were doing.
Right. My big thing this week was just to try to get the website going. We didn't really talk about it too much in the video, but like that's most of what my week consisted of was working on the website. We had to get our policies written for our customers, like to know like, do we accept returns? How does that whole process work? We got to put in writing, we're not going to take crap from rude people. If you want to call in and verbally abuse our employees, we are going to give them the authority to hang up on you. I don't care that you think we have bad customer service. Like, that's just the kind of company that we want to have. We don't want to let our employees be harassed by the general public. We're selling a premium product for a premium, and you have every right to be upset if it's not what you wanted.
As long as you act like a civil human being.
Right. So anyway, just trying to write all that up into nice, like, customer service speak.
Right,
that took some time. We're also trying to like reverse engineer other websites. So like there's a ton of psychology that goes into making a good website that people stay on and purchase through. But we don't have that kind of budget to hire someone to do that for us. So I spent most of the week reverse engineering other luxury furniture websites and just reverse engineering what they're doing to work for us. Again, the goal is not to make like the world's best website ever. It's just get in, get it 10% better, and then get out, which that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today on the title topic. But really, I was just spending a lot of time on the website trying to outline it, make it look a lot better, make it more functional for the end user, as well as on our end too.
Right. So that was that was kind of very involved. It did take a little bit of research. And anytime you're getting down to the nitty gritty, like editing text, writing the return policy, putting up new pictures, it takes a while. You have to fill out all the details, make sure you're hitting all the SEO, tags and keywords and all that kind of stuff. And then I was working on a lot of stuff in Photoshop.
Your best friend, right?
No, it is like such a necessary evil to me. I appreciate everything Photoshop can do, but man, I don't enjoy like actually using the software. So for those of you who have never used it or maybe like don't know what it is a very, very powerful, all-encompassing photo editing software. Like you can basically do whatever you want to an image.
And there's 3 ways to do everything.
Yes. Oh, I'll get there. Anyways, so I was designing some flyers that we wanted to put in our product boxes. So when somebody receives a cutting board, we want them to open their box and inside is a flyer advertising our other products. So maybe they have a flyer in there advertising our charcuterie boards. Maybe there's a flyer in there advertising our kitchen tables. Basically, we want them to follow on and buy another product in addition to the product they've already received. Mm-hmm. Because the cutting boards and charcuterie boards are basically just an avenue for us to be able to advertise to the correct people. Anyway, so that's what I started doing. Since we don't have tables or anything like that prototyped yet, I started with the charcuterie boards and cutting boards.
But you're just getting the template set up so that when we have pictures of that in the future, you've already got it drawn up. All you got to do is plug and play with the pictures, and you can order the cards.
And that's the point of Photoshop. I want to do it in a program that's easily repeatable that I can go back and update. But, oh my gosh, there are so many tiny little buttons all over in Photoshop, none of which are labeled. There's like just this mysterious little picture that sits on top of this little gray button, and you are left to assume what it does. And you can like hover over the button, and a text box will pop up and say what it is, but it'll be like, magic wand tool. Cool. And and then I have to go search all the stuff that it does and how to use it, and oh my goodness.
And then you watch a tutorial video and the guy doing the tutorial doesn't even do the thing you're trying to do.
Yes, I get halfway through the video and I'm like, he didn't even talk about what I need to do to this picture. And then like Davis said, there's 3 different ways to accomplish anything. So it's like you'll have your heart set on doing it one way and then somebody else will show you a different way. And you're like, well, this is frustrating. I'm confused now. But anyways, it's okay. I respect it for what it is. I know, that it's what I need to be using. A lot of times I can see exactly what I want to be making in my head. I just feel like not being able to use the program well, is a roadblock for me. Anyways, so that's what I was doing, is making a whole bunch of flyers. And I was doing a lot of work for the podcast also.
Oh, yeah. That was a whole thing this week. So we didn't get into this at all in the YouTube video, but man, we spent so much time this week just preparing. So this week we're recording the podcast is also the week that we publish the podcast. So
started advertising it and making it on our social media pages. So I had to do lots of graphics.
We're trying to get all the graphics set up for that. So every week we have, graphics to post on social media for the new episode and stuff stuff that we'll only ever have to do once, or takes a majority of our time the first time to do it, and then slow updates over time are a lot easier.
Yes, exactly. So we're basically doing it for future Jennie and Davis.
And we did not want to do that stuff this week. We just wanted to sell. We wanted to make money. We wanted to build cutting boards.
Right.
But we were just staring at this mountain of stuff to do that we did not want to do, but we couldn't move forward with the bit. We did this on purpose. We intentionally decided to do all this stuff now so that we don't ever have to do it again. We're intentionally scheduling this time into our week so that we don't have any excuses for why we don't sell later. We're trying to eliminate excuses, but it's just now it's to the point where we're between a rock and a hard place full of stuff that we don't want to do to move forward. And I'm happy. Future me is very happy that we're doing this right now. Current me is very irritated with the amount of crap I left myself to do this week.
Right, but I feel like scheduling it really helped also. We set aside time for us to do it. We couldn't really let ourselves down, and we knew once that scheduled time was over, it was over. We were free.
Right. So we'll get into the title topic, but why don't you hit him with the quote first? So this episode, every episode we have a quote. Right now we're
For the
2
last
for 2.
2 episodes?
Yeah, we're 2 for 2 right now.
Great odds. I like it. So this episode's quote is by Will Smith. I think it came from like a video interview.
Yeah, we talked about
with
this in
him.
the YouTube video. Basically, Will Smith grew up helping family. I don't remember the details of the story, but like he grew up helping his family build some brick wall out in front of a house or a restaurant or something. And so he was just overwhelmed. He was like 8 years old or however old he was. He couldn't like, you can't wrap your brain when you're 8 years old around a project as big as building a wall in front of a building.
Right. It's like really overwhelming. So what he was saying is you don't set out to build a wall. You say, I'm going to lay this brick as perfectly as a brick can be laid. You do that every single day, and soon enough you have a wall.
Right. So like that was kind of his takeaway from it, is like, look, sometimes you just can't wrap your mind around doing the whole thing. You just have to focus on what you're doing right now, today, and over time you'll get your goal done. And in contrast with what we talked about last week about setting huge unrealistic goals, this week we get to talk about how you actually do it. You just put one foot in front of the other, and how to like trick yourself into doing what you don't want to do. So that's this week. Quit skipping steps. Do what you don't want to do, even though you know you need to get it done.
So last week we talked about setting unrealistic goals. Basically, we didn't want to cut ourselves short. We wanted to say, hey, I think I can do this great big task. Like for us, we wanted to build cutting boards at a pace of 100 cutting boards per week. We made it kind of outrageous. So then when we didn't quite meet that goal, but we got really, really close, we knew for a fact that we were not letting ourselves down or letting ourselves off easy. So that's kind of what we talked about last week. But then we kind of, you run into the issue where it's like, okay, well, that's great to have this unrealistic, big, big goal. But how do I day by day live that out? You have to like balance choosing a long-term goal, but also like working relentlessly hard every day to achieve it. Because you can't just set this massive goal and then just say, oh, I'll get there. Because if you don't set a process in place to actually work toward it, like it's not going to happen.
Right. And if you're trying to do anything significant in life, like you're just going to be forced to do a lot of things you don't like to do. And
right.
I feel like Jennie and I have a lot of experience in this arena because of the military. Like if you know anything at all about the military, like they are professionals at getting people to do things they don't want to do. Or at least trying to give you a good rationale for why you should do things that instinctively, naturally, we don't want to do, like die for your country, or move every 3 years, or spend a lot of time away from your family.
Yeah, work 60 hours a week. Yeah.
Right. So we kind of reverse engineered a lot of these principles that we learned that we're going to talk about this week from our experiences in the military, of like how the military does training, how they get people to do these extraordinary, amazing things, even though we are like hardwired in our brains to not want to do those things. So if it's good enough for the military to use, the concept should work for you. If you're just trying to get a better job, get promoted, accomplish whatever goal it is that you're setting out to achieve.
Right.
So the first thing that we want to tackle is, how do you stay motivated?
Because a lot of times these big long-term goals, like they're called long-term goals for a reason. It takes a really long time to get there. And if you're you're working at it consistently every single day, you're going to start to get bored of it. You're going to start to get tired of it. You're going to be sick of constantly doing the same thing and not quite seeing massive results or like a huge payoff.
Because that's just the human condition. Like it's like our brains are wired to like adapt to our surroundings and then try to improve it or try to make it better. And like even if you're doing the best thing in the world, like if you get your dream job, you're not always going to be happy. Your brain's always going to be trying to solve that next problem or make it improve. Like it's very hard for you to be grateful and to see how far you've come, because you're always focused on trying to do the next better thing or like get it bigger, better, faster, stronger, mentality.
Yeah.
Anyway, how to stay motivated. Just understand that like you are an emotional creature. All of us are. Even the most logical among us are still motivated by emotions. And you've got to find ways to get like the excitement, your emotions on board, even though some days you're just dogging it. You're just not feeling it. So what are some ways, Jennie, that you stay motivated?
Man, for me, I think, I don't know if this works for anybody else, but I keep telling myself how good it's going to be for me, like how healthy it is. Like I'm reminding myself that by doing the things I don't want to do, I'm investing in myself. And And part of it is thinking ahead, like, hey, think of how much better of a person this is going to make me. And then I also look at past me and like look at how much better you've become from the old you. So I feel like I kind of draw the motivation from two places. I look at, hey, because you've done all of this stuff and you've like trained your brain to do what you don't want to do, look at how much stronger of a person you've become. Look at how much more disciplined you've become. Look at how much healthier you are. And then I'll look into the future and say, hey, on this like trajectory, on this path, look at how much better you can be. And I find people that I really look up to who are doing the things like I want to do, like having a good morning routine, having a good night routine, eating healthy, keeping themselves like accountable to working out. And I'm like, man, I want to be that. And I'm like, well, you're never going to be that unless you actually like eat something decent for breakfast and do your workout instead of skipping it 3 days a week, you know?
Yeah, so it's almost like you're throwing your identity over the fence ahead of you. Like if you jump fences across people's backyards as a kid, like you threw your backpack over the fence before you jumped over the fence because it was too heavy to climb. So you're taking your identity and you're throwing that over the fence and you're saying, I want to be the kind of person that takes care of my body.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Is healthy, and then you catch up to it with your actions. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. What helps me is to know that I'm not alone. You know, a lot of times I spend a lot of time in my own head, way too much time in my own head. And it's really nice to like snap back to reality with, I don't know, with like a church group or like some other group like the Stud Stack or some other community where other people are going through the same thing. I don't have to make it easy on myself. I just have to know that I'm not alone.
So do you think that's like to remind you that you're not crazy, or what does that do for you?
I don't really know, to be honest. Like it makes me feel I mean, this is an emotion game. It's not going to be rational, but like,
True.
It just makes me feel better when somebody else is going through it with me, or somebody else acknowledges how difficult it is. Like, especially with how terrible my job was for me specifically with the way my brain's wired back when we were in North Dakota. Like, I never wanted the job to be easier. Like, I was going to suck it up and do it. Like, yeah, it was 36 hours on, 36 hours off. It was tough, grueling work. And I was like sleep deprived and all the rest. But like, I never wanted it necessarily to be easier. I just wanted my boss and my leadership to acknowledge the fact that it was freaking hard. I don't want them to come in and say, no, you guys got this. It's easy. Just keep doing what you're doing. Like, no, just be honest, own up to it. Say, hey, guys, it sucks, but this is where we are right now. This is what, you know, we're trying to improve it, but right now you just got to suck it up and take one for the team. That would have been way more motivating to me than just trying to lie about the circumstances or trying to make it easier when it really wasn't easier.
So do you think there's like a personality type that's very different than you who would have preferred somebody to come in and like kind of lie to them? Do you think there's some people that like that helps them and motivates them?
I don't know, maybe.
Because I feel like that's kind of like a growth mindset type thing, is for somebody to just be very honest and say, yeah, it sucks and we just have to do it anyways. I feel like that's kind of something that's against the grain to accept.
I don't know. I don't even pretend to know somebody else's point of view. All I know is that like, I just don't like it when people lie to me or try to pump you up, like blow smoke up your butt with motivation. Like that's the cheesy motivation that I hate.
Yeah.
Is when people are trying to oversimplify it, or they're not taking it seriously and they're just trying to pump you up with positive energy anyway.
No, I totally get that. I mean, that had happened to me a couple of times in my job too. I was just curious to like, because you worked in a larger group of people than I did in North Dakota. I didn't have that many people around me. So I was just curious if you had any experiences of people who were like motivated completely differently.
Oh, well, I don't know. Like, I mean, you spent plenty of time with us at parties and stuff. All we would do was complain to each other, and we'd feel so much better after. Like,
yeah,
everybody
I guess
goes through that.
True.
Everybody goes to the bar after work and just complains about the boss and everything. Like, that's just a staple of like the human nature. Like, people feel better when they have somebody else going through it with them. Anyway, that's just me. But as far as like our own self-motivation, I really like what you said about like casting your identity ahead of yourself. Also like my method of just finding a community of people that are going through it with you. That's so helpful, because then you don't feel like you're alone. You don't feel like you're helpless. You have other avenues to turn to if you get stumped.
Yeah, I think what we're saying is doing things that you don't want to do because you know you need to do them. It's a lonely path. It can get boring and lonely and kind of sad and frustrating at times. So it's like you need something to help you along because, like we said, as human beings, like you don't naturally want to do that. So I guess find something. Figure out what your companion going through this is going to be, whether it's finding a community, if that's your companion, or if it's looking up to somebody that you want to be and casting your identity toward their way of life. Like, find something.
Right. Cool. So the second topic that we have written down here is how do you deal with distractions? So I saw something really cool on Instagram the other day. It's like distractions look like opportunities if you're not focused on your goal. And I thought that was so good for us because starting a woodworking business, if you really put your mind to it, it doesn't really matter what you build. You could build anything. You could build cutting boards. You could build charcuterie boards and only those things and still have a wildly successful business if you market and do sales correctly.
Right.
With us, especially because our brains are wired to change the channel every 5 minutes, we don't want to fall into a routine. Our brains are not wired to stick to a routine.
We reject routine. We're like, let's be spontaneous. Let's change the course. Let's do something new. Let's take a risk.
And that's so toxic to trying to build because
it is.
If you're constantly flipping the table over, you can't build anything on the table. Like, just to abuse that metaphor, like you can't build on a process that you're constantly changing. So we can't constantly be changing our product options or what we want to sell to people because if we keep changing it, then all the progress we've made on whatever we were trying to do is now lost and we got to start over. If you're respecting the weight of how big whatever you're trying to tackle is, you shouldn't be changing the channel all the time. And this isn't a problem for everybody. This is just a problem for us.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think others might be.
May struggle with the same thing. But yeah, because there are consequences to constantly changing the channel and changing the plan. You sacrifice consistency for your customer base. If one month you decide, hey, we're going to do all cutting boards, and then the next month you're like, nope, I'm going to build birdhouses now. Your customer's like, what the heck? I just got really comfortable and like really liked you guys selling cutting boards. Yeah,
and you've also got to do the flip side too. Some people don't pivot when they need to. Like some people skip the step of pulling your head out of the sand once every 5 years. Like,
and being flexible.
Bruce Ulrich just put up a video on this birdhouse, like you're saying.
Which is where I got the birdhouses.
There's this birdhouse manufacturer in Mississippi. They're American-made birdhouses. They're really nice, but they're made out of real wood. And then in 2008, with the financial crisis, they had to pivot. They had to start selling lumber. They had to start doing other things than just selling birdhouses. And you've also got to have your finger on the pulse of what's going on around you. You can't be so focused on stacking your blocks on your table and with your plan and then realize the world around you has completely changed. So it's a balance. It's a balance. Everything in life is a balance. You gotta figure out are the steps that you're skipping the little details of routine, or are they, hey man, would you pull your head out of your plan and look around and see what's changed? Some people just need to stick to one plan. Some people just need to
be willing to find a new one.
Right. All right, so let's get to some action steps here. How do you actually stop ignoring the things that you don't want to do? Like, because that's the other half of the equation is like sometimes you don't even realize that you're skipping steps.
And that is what is so dangerous sometimes is because you can go for such long periods of times, years sometimes, without realizing that you're missing something or like you're completely unbalanced in, your distractions and changing the plans. And, like how do you pull yourself out of that? How do you start doing something that you don't even know you're not doing?
I think the first thing is to ask your friends. Now, don't ask like, well, I guess you could ask your good friend. Just be ready for your friends to tell you what you want to hear first. And then ask the follow-up question, and what else am I missing? Okay, that's great. Yeah, cool, whatever. Yeah, you think I'm doing great. What else am I missing? I think it was Andrew Carnegie that said, like, there's 2 reasons a man does something. The reason he'll tell you and the real reason. So you want to get past that nice, friendly, like, hey, man, I think you're doing great, but I think you can improve here, here, and here. Okay, that's great. Yeah, I'll take that into consideration. Hey, man, what else am I missing? Ask for that second step and then be ready for it to hurt. Don't just expect it not to hurt because you're trying to do this thing. You're emotionally invested and you're going to feel bad about it. But if you really want that goal, if you really want to cast your identity ahead and accomplish the goal that you've set out for yourself, it's going to sting a little bit. It's going to be hard.
Right. And I feel like some people tend to take it too personally, like me. I mean, I will just go right out there and say, like, I am really bad at taking things too personally the first time around. And it's like when you get that advice,
Can confirm.
But like when you get that advice, you almost have to get excited about it and say like, I am so happy to hear that I am doing something poorly because it means that I can get better.
Or not even that. Like if you can't get that, like that's like level 10. That's super extra advanced technique of like growth mindset. But like maybe you just need to distract yourself from the pain of it hurting by saying like, I'm so glad I have a friend that's willing to be honest with me. Because honestly, guys, like you really want to measure your friends, ask them to tell you what they really think. And if they lie to you, then they don't really care about you. But if they're willing to tell you that you suck and here's where you suck and here's how you can get better and I'll help you with that, man, that's a great friend. Yeah. So maybe you just need to distract yourself with how good of a friend that you have, that they're willing to tell you something that's hurtful, and then focus on appreciating that relationship. Jot down their advice and come back to it. But like maybe just to help cushion the blow to your identity, maybe you just reciprocate the kindness that friend showed you, maybe in a different way. Yeah,
maybe not by saying like,
maybe
hey,
that friend's not ready to hear.
You're a great friend. Also, you're terrible at staying organized. Aren't you glad I told you that? No.
Yeah. So
reciprocate it in an appropriate way.
Maybe just, So, I mean, that's one way. You can also, like what Jennie alluded to earlier, is like outline what other successful people are doing. Look at somebody that you really admire or look up to, or it has achieved the things that you want to achieve, and sort of reverse engineer it and say like, okay, what are they doing every day that I'm not doing? Do they have a morning routine? Are they working out every day? Are they talking to their boss? Like, how hard are they working? Like, reverse engineer that for yourself. Hey, they've got a morning routine. I don't. Maybe I should do that. Hey, they do meal prep so that they're not, constantly cooking in the kitchen and wasting a ton of time. Maybe I should start meal prepping so that I've got more time to spend at the job or like invest in my family, whatever, your goal is. So that's another way you can do it. Let's pretend that you did that and your friends have told you that you suck and you really want to start tackling these things. How then do you go about like actually working on the things that you don't want to do? Because by definition, you don't want to do it. You're going to try to skip it. You don't want to skip. How do you not skip the step once you're conscious of it and aware that you need to do something that you don't want to do?
Yeah, because I'm going to want to like so badly squirm out of it. I'm going to start justifying why I don't need to do it. I'm going to start justifying in my head why I feel like they were actually wrong. Maybe I'm not bad at that. So I think one thing that works really well for us that we found is actually scheduling a time to do the things that you don't want to do. Like, let's say you really don't like working out. You're not a fan of it, but you know you need to. You want to get back in shape, and the person that you look up to most, maybe they work out a lot. And you're like, hey, it works for them. Like, it should really work for me. Let's just buckle down and do this. And so you put it into your calendar. Hey, from, 7 to 8 a.m., I am going to work out, or I'm going to start figuring out how I'm going to like incorporate working out into my life again.
Right. Which that hits on my point of like lower your expectations. Like don't try to go cold turkey and say I'm going to work out every day from 7 to 8 a.m. every single day.
Right.
Like maybe your first action is, hey, 8 a.m. on Monday morning, I'm just going to go to the store and buy a pair of running shoes. Mm-hmm. That's it. You don't even have to work out. All you got to do is go buy running shoes. And then the next day it's like I don't even have to work out. I don't even have to leave the house. All I got to do is get dressed, put on my tennis shoes, and put my hand on the doorknob as if I was going to go run, and then celebrate that effort instead of the accomplishment of running. Because we get told way too much in like our Western ways. I sound like a monk here in a minute, but like we get told way too much that people are proud of our accomplishments, not our effort. If you read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, all she talks about is like kids that are encouraged to try hard and to put effort in overwhelmingly are more successful than the ones that are rewarded for getting the A, or the ones that have, like the grade is not important. The effort you put into it is much more valuable and much more important, and the discipline you build is far and above more important than the accomplishments that you achieve.
Right. The fact that you put in the effort and the time to do that really hard thing is more important, because what skill are you going to need more in life? You're definitely going to need the skill of doing things and putting an effort toward things you don't want to do.
Or not giving up.
Yes.
Once it gets difficult. So schedule your workouts. That's what you're saying. Like put a time in the calendar and then give yourself permission to lower the bar. Mm-hmm. Yes, you've got this awesome, crazy goal that we talked about last week that's impossible, but sometimes all you got to do is lay a brick. You're not trying to lay 10 bricks. You're not trying to lay 10 bricks in one go every time. You're just trying to buy a pair of running shoes before you get started running. If you really want to run a marathon, you got to buy running shoes. That's step one. So do your first couple steps and don't beat yourself up over not doing more.
Because I feel like if you take too big of a bite, or like when you've scheduled time to do this undesirable task, if you try to go too quickly, you're just going to turn yourself off to it. And you'll be like, nope, that's it. It's not going to happen. I can't do it. This is like way too much for me to accomplish in a 1 hour block of time. And now you've set yourself back even longer because now you're discouraged and, you know, like having bad thoughts about, hey, maybe I can't do this, rather than allowing yourself to have a positive mindset.
Right. So split it into smaller steps. So let's recap then. To find out the stuff that you're skipping, ask your friends, ask your good friends, and then push them to go one step further. What else am I missing? From there, you can also like triangulate based on people that you look up to, people that you think are successful, reverse engineer what they're doing versus what you're not doing. And then once you've outlined those things, the first thing to do is just to schedule it. Put time on the calendar. In the moment that you get consciousness and want to tackle and improve your life, take advantage of that time and schedule it. That's when Jennie and I, we're usually feeling pretty good on Sunday nights. So that's the time that we schedule the whole rest of our week, including the things that we don't want to do.
Because midweek, like, I mean, we're talking like a Tuesday or Thursday and we're tired. We've been building all week. We've been editing. We've been, all sorts of stuff. We're like, oh, hey, let's schedule. We're like, nope. I'm exhausted.
Use the moments of consciousness you have on this to your advantage, and that's when you schedule them, and then you're just a slave to the schedule the rest of the week, and then you can start to get way more done. You can also lower your expectations. Do not try to eat the whole elephant at once. Don't try to go from, hey, I want to run a marathon. All right, tomorrow morning I'm going to go run a mile. No, you're just setting yourself up for failure. Lower your bar, lower the standard, and pick a goal that you're actually going to achieve in the day-to-day. Just lay one brick. Yeah, you'll get to the wall one day, but you gotta, like, it's managing the tension between setting a lofty goal and then breaking it into small enough steps that you stay motivated to do it. Otherwise, if you are constantly biting off way more than you can chew every single day, you're going to get burned out. You're going to get worn out. You're not going to want to chase that goal anymore. And then 5 years later, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I had plans to run a marathon and I don't know, it was just too hard. I couldn't do it. I couldn't find time. I had a kid. I had my job. And like we start this laundry list of excuses that is not the real reason why you're not in the life that you want. So anyway, that's today's show. Thanks so much for listening and hanging out with us. Again, we'd love a review of the podcast.
Yes.
If you're enjoying it so far, we'd love to hear what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what we can improve on. And we'd appreciate a 5-star rating on the podcast app of your choosing. Do we have any announcements?
Gosh, I don't think so.
Hey, we have a podcast.
Yeah, I think that was our announcement for the first podcast too. But seriously, thanks for listening. We really appreciate you. And come back next week because...
What's next week?
Next week we are talking about how we should quit doing it right.
Wait, what?
Does that mean we should do it wrong?
I don't know. You'll have to find out.
We'll have to see.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.